Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Warren Fogelman with Business Success Solution. Today's topic is strategically differentiate your firm with CFO services, and I will be talking with Adam Lean. So this is part of what we're going to cover, is what clients really want from their accountants, which is beside the basics, how to attract new clients and upsell existing one into business advisory services, and proven strategies to stop trading time for money and truly own your own firm. So I suggest you get ready to take some notes. Adam is very passionate about this topic, and we'll also let you know how to connect with him as we wrap up. A little bit about Adam. Adam Lean is a former accountant turned two-time entrepreneur who built, scaled, and sold two businesses. While helping other business owners, he realized his passion was actually teaching and providing tools to those business owners to help them make more money and have peace of mind. He currently runs the CFO Project. It's a company that trains financial professionals on how to offer an outsourced CFO and business advisory service. So if you want to find out more about Adam Lean and the CFO Project, you can go to the CFOproject.com. So Adam, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. We've spoken several times before, and it's something where we're very aligned. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. It's great seeing you again.
Absolutely. And before we actually dive in, I would like to know a little bit about how you got on this path to really training financial professionals to be CFOs and offer the advisory services.
Yeah, honestly, I would never have projected or guessed that I would be here 10 years ago. It really all started because back in 2006, I was an accountant. And it was my first job out of college. I thought I wanted to be an accountant, but honestly, I didn't love it. I didn't love the idea of recording the past as all I did every day. I wanted to help the business grow. And so actually, I started doing that in the company I worked for. I started doing things that helped them grow. And I actually liked that a lot more, which coincidentally would help. I mean, theoretically, if you help the business grow, it improves the financials. But if you think about it, an accountant, you could do your job real well if the business is successful or is not successful. I mean, accountant just is sort of agnostic to how the business is performing. They have to document. They're like a reporter, a journalist. They have to document with accuracy. But I wanted to help the business grow. And so anyways, I had all this energy. And so I started my own business. It had nothing to do with accounting. I started my own e-commerce store on the side because I really wanted to dig in and grow a business. And that's what I did. And over the next 4 years, my business grew enough I was able to leave my day job. And so then I started, because I was an e-commerce business, and this is back in like 2008, 2009, before, it was easy to start an e-commerce business. Like it's kind of funny. I had to mail order several CDs of a shopping cart that I had to install on my computer, and I had to get a server to host it all. But I'll never forget
back then.
Yes, it was very cumbersome. And there's not that much competition, which was nice as well. But I'll never forget, I got my first order, and I was sort of hooked. This idea of selling something that people wanted. And I got my first order, and then I started interacting with other business owners who were also trying to figure things out. And then I realized that I took for granted the fact that I understood the numbers in my business because I had an accounting background. These people didn't. They were running their business blind because they were passionate about what they did. Think about a dentist, somebody that owns a dental practice. They are trained in dentistry. That is, when they look at themselves, they say to themselves, I'm a dentist. They don't say I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, they don't think in those terms. Somebody that owns a construction company, they're passionate about what they do. Somebody that owns a hair salon, same thing. And so all these people are experts in their craft. They're not experts necessarily at numbers and accounting. But as we all know, businesses live and die on a number, cash flow. That's a financial concept, and financial concept, specifically that one, is foreign too many business owners. And so they needed help. So I actually started helping some of these people that I met, and they loved it. Like they loved the insights that I gave. I started meeting with them. I didn't call it a CFO service. I just started meeting with them and say, hey, if, here's what's really going on in your business. If you did these 4 things, it would improve. If you stop doing these things, it would improve. And they're like, oh, let's do more of this. And so that sort of morphed into a CFO, what's now called a CFO advisory service, where instead of offering bookkeeping or instead of tax, all I do all I did was meet with my client once a month and give them a very clear picture of their business without looking at the financial statements. Very clear picture of their business, and then show them the 2 to 3, maybe 4 things they need to do that month to improve it. And that's it. We did that every single month, and the clients loved it.
And something I want to just dig into a little bit deeper is that, from what I'm hearing, most business owners, they don't want to do the compliance work of hiring an accountant or even a tax preparer. They're doing it because they have to avoid penalties and punishment.
Right.
But that there's actually something that you found that business owners do want that goes beyond the compliance. However, so often I hear bookkeepers and accountants say, well, my clients don't want to meet with me. So you found a way where they actually want to meet with you. And I would love to hear how you maybe communicated it so that it was appealing for them to carve out time to have that meeting with you.
Yeah, I get that too. A lot of accountants are like, they don't want to have a meeting with me. Well, you're right. They don't want to have a meeting where all you do is talk about numbers. We have to remember that all of us in the financial industry are a small minority of people on earth. Most people don't understand numbers, much less like them. And when I say numbers, financials, they don't get it. When somebody doesn't understand something, they don't like it. And so that applies with financials. Most people don't understand financials. They kind of get what a P&L is. They kind of get it, but not really, because at the end of the year, the P&L, the profit could show $100,000 and you could have $3,000 in your bank account. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And then the balance sheet is sort of confusing, and the statement of cash flows is just mind blowing. And it's like, no, they don't want to meet with you if all you do is give them those 3 reports and go through them. It's like pulling teeth. Who wants to go to the dentist where every time you go, they're going to pull a tooth? It doesn't make sense. So we have to change the conversation. Now, instead of having a meeting that's painful for your client, you need to have a meeting that your client will actually enjoy. And if you're the tax preparer or the bookkeeper, you still should do the books and taxes, but don't talk about that at the meeting. Especially don't talk about it in a way that is boring. You've got to talk about what they are interested in. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that business owners are interested more in having a better future than just talking about what happened in the past. Hands down.
Okay, so they're interested in having a better future. I totally agree with that. I think that the more that you can connect what you do with something that is future focused and meaningful to them is where the gold is as far as your services go. And one of the things I know we've talked about before is that accounting firm owners, they worry about capacity because of how they've set up their business model, and scaling tends to be something that feels challenging to them. So if they were to move in this direction, they have a capacity issue with the way the things are set up. How do you suggest they maybe move through that so that they can scale?
Yeah, we call that the accountant's trap, because accountants are really trading time for money. In order for you to make more money as an accountant, you've got to either take on more clients, work more hours, or charge more. Well, you can't really work more hours because most accountants are already working a lot. Same thing with taking on more clients. What are you going to do? You're going to have to hire more people to do all that and raise prices. How can most accountants or bookkeepers raise prices when their audience, their customer base, views what they do as a commodity? Like, why would I pay one accountant $3,000 for taxes when another person will do the same thing? In my mind, in most people's mind, all tax preparers do the same thing. It's the same thing at all. Why would I pay you $3,000 when somebody else says I'll do it for $750? So you can't raise prices, you can't work more hours, you can't get more clients. This is a trap if you want to make more money. So we suggest that you need to sell something where you can raise your prices. And as we all know, in any business, to raise prices, you got to sell something that people want, not just need. Like you pointed out, they need bookkeeping, they need tax, but what they want is to have a better future. So if you can reposition yourself by saying, look, I will do your taxes, I will do your bookkeeping, no problem. But what I'm really interested in is helping you not only stay in business, but help you have a growing and successful business. Now, all of a sudden, business owners will pay attention to what you have to say.
And I am definitely, we speak the same language, Adam. So one of the things I just want to highlight here that you're talking about is with repositioning yourself. So often accountants are talking about what they do and all the tasks, the workflows, the reports, and leading with that, which does make them a commodity. But one of the things I think that we're in agreement is you want to talk about how you're going to help that business owner scale themselves maybe, or move forward or improve their cash flow, something that's important to them, and that you're going to be doing the bookkeeping and maybe the taxes to be able to support that insight. Is that what you're talking about as well?
Yeah, essentially. And somebody may be thinking, well, how can I add on another service when I'm already inundated with bookkeeping and tax? Well, the beauty of this is that if you have a service where you're charging a lot more, like we suggest you charge at least $1,500 a month for CFO advisory services, the average person in our program charges $2,000. So $2,000 a month. That means that you could take on less bookkeeping and tax clients because now you've more than made up for that with CFO advisory clients. So now you have, instead of having 30 clients, for example, you can have 6 and make almost double the amount of money. That means you're working a lot less on those tax and bookkeeping clients because you only have 6. And CFO advisory services, we suggest you provide some sort of what we call a productized service as compared to a fractional service. That's a whole other conversation. But by providing a productized CFO service, it only takes between around 4 to 7 hours per month per client. So you're working a lot less and making a lot more money.
And basically, when you're moving that direction, because you're increasing the value of a client, you get back some of your time. As you mentioned, you don't need as many clients to be able to meet your revenue needs. And maybe you can take back some of that personal time also, instead of working at overcapacity and feeling like you're on the road to burnout. So is there anything else that firm owners would need to do to be able to make this transition from the compliance side primarily over to the advisory side, aside from raising the prices and talking to people?
Yeah, well, so there's a couple of things. That's a good question. There's a couple of things. The first is that we need to really understand why a business owner would even buy CFO advisory services. Because I think a lot of accountants and bookkeepers think, well, I could offer advisory services. I'm already offering it now. They're just not taking my service. They're not taking my advice. I mean, and we get that all the time.
Or they're taking it without paying for it.
Yes, that's a great one. It's like going, you have in a retail store, somebody walks in and says, oh, I like this, your thing on the shelf, and you take it off the shelf and give it to them for free just because they said they liked it. That you're giving away advice. And so we have to rethink. The first thing we need to do is rethink about how we think about CFO advisory services. Why would a business owner buy this service from me in the first place? And then once we understand that, then we could position what we do in a way that gets people to take action. So instead of going, let's say you're at a Rotary meeting or a Chamber of Commerce meeting, traditionally somebody asks, oh, what do you do? Well, I'm an accountant. Well, that's usually a conversation stopper right there. But if you go up to somebody at Rotary and they're a business owner and you're talking for a while, and let's say they own a roofing company and they ask you what you do. It's like, well, I help businesses just like yours, become a growing and successful business. Who would stop the conversation at that point? Nobody. It would be an invite they would invite you to continue, like explain, what are you talking about? I want to know more. And so we have to reposition what we do. You can still be an accountant. You still sell them accounting services, but just we got to think about it from their standpoint. Nobody wants to buy an accounting service, but they would want to buy a service where an accounting professional is looking at their numbers and telling them what to do to have a growing, successful business. So that's the first thing.
Okay. So just everybody paying attention. Nobody wants to buy the accounting service, but they do want to invest in what you can help them do to help them advance their business moving forward. But then this leads into my next thought about so many firm owners think, oh, I don't have enough experience. Who am I to be doing that? I don't have enough letters behind my name. And you see imposter syndrome starting to surface. So anything that you see that helps them to maybe recognize that they're getting in their own way and how to be able to make the leap forward?
Yeah, fantastic question. Most accountants and bookkeepers, especially bookkeepers for some reason, think there is absolutely no way I could call myself a CFO because I'm not qualified. And you're right, the imposter syndrome creeps in. Here's the thing though, 99% of all businesses, and this is according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, 99% of all businesses are small. They don't have a CFO right now. Big businesses, the 1% of all businesses like Microsoft, they have CFOs. So what we're saying is that you are probably not qualified to be Microsoft CFO, but you're definitely could be qualified to be the CFO of Paul's Heating and Air Service or Rick's roofing business. Why? Because you could be qualified once you have a little bit of training and experience. Once you have that training and experience, you're definitely qualified. Why is that? Because Paul of Paul's Heating and Air and Rick of Rick's roofing business, they are experts at what they do. And if somebody like you doesn't come along, they're going to continue running the business the way they know how to run the business. As we all know, most businesses end up failing. 8 out of 10 businesses won't even make it their 10 years. Half will fail before their 5th birthday. And so Rick and Paul, without somebody like us, is going to struggle and maybe even fail. So we have to reframe what we don't need to have the qualification of Microsoft CFO today to help a small business. And most small, 9% of all businesses make 1 million or more in revenue, which is a crazy statistic. So most businesses aren't even that big. So could we, in the accounting industry, help those people? Absolutely. They need your help. They want your help. And that will help eradicate business failure. And so we just need, in order to be qualified, we just need a little bit of training and experience on knowing how to help small business owners, which is the help they need is much different than the help that Microsoft CFO would provide to Microsoft. In Microsoft, for example, I don't know why I'm using Microsoft, big business, but if Microsoft, has a cash crunch, they can easily raise money from investors. They can easily go to the bank and get loans. If Rick from Rick's roofing company has a cash flow issue, what investor is investing in his business? Nobody. Could go out and get a loan, but that's incredibly difficult, especially if it's an operating loan. And what is he going to pull from his personal savings or go into credit card debt? I mean, it's two very different dynamics. And so we have to be able to have experience in helping small businesses navigate those things and help non-financial business owners figure out how to have a growing and successful business. And that's a much easier to do if you already have a financial background, which is why we believe bookkeepers and accountants are ripe for this. They're the perfect type of person for this. They just need experience and training on knowing how to do it.
And part of what we were talking about earlier is the majority of business owners out there, they don't really understand the financials in their business and how money operates anyway. So they do need you And if you find that you have clients reaching out to you with quick questions, they want your input on something, and you're happy to help them because you want them to be successful, then you're probably already offering advisory services. You're just not getting paid for it. So being able to now have the structure to do this more formally creates a new stream of revenue, and you're now getting compensated for something you probably were organically giving away for free anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most accountants and bookkeepers really do want to help their clients. And so when their client asks a question, they'll try to answer. But there's two things that happen in the minds of many accountants that we've noticed. The first is they're thinking, well, I'm not getting paid for this. So I'm going to give them what I think is an adequate answer, but I can't not afford to invest a lot of time in really understanding. For example, if a client says, should I raise the prices on these products? What should I raise them to? The accountant is probably thinking, well, I don't have a time to really understand this. The second thing is they don't really know how to respond to them, because that's perceived as an operational question, not an accounting question. Now, if the business owner came to them and said, oh, can you explain to me how you arrived at day sales outstanding, that number? Then the accountant, that is a question the accountant should answer, and the accountant's comfortable answering that question because they know what the answer is. But when a client asks operational or managerial type questions, like, can I raise my prices? Can I hire this person at $75,000 a year? Can I buy another truck? Why is there only $6,000 in the bank when, the P&L is showing 40,000? Questions like that, business accountants and bookkeepers, we found either they don't have the time to adequately answer the question, or they just don't know how to answer the question. But either way, they want to answer the question because they want to keep their client happy. Right. And if they do end up answering the question, they're giving that advice away for free. So you might as well offer a service to your clients where you're helping them in a way that you're getting paid for it, but you also know what you're doing, so that you're actually really helping them have a growing, successful business, because you could look at it on paper and show we define successful business as one that's generating cash flow, positive cash flow on a regular basis. If you're doing that, then you're helping your client have a successful business. There's no ambiguity about it. You are helping them. It's not just a feeling. It's you're helping them because you could see on paper they're generating positive cash flow on a regular basis.
And something that is coming up for me as you're talking about this is that maybe your current clients aren't all of them the right fit for moving forward in advisory services, because you started out, you had low rates, they stayed with you because you were cheap and you never raised their prices with your older legacy clients. So if you want to be able to move in this direction, you might think, oh my gosh, I'm going to need new clients. And so what is the best way that maybe a firm owner that wants to start offering the advisory services can attract those right fit clients to their firm?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Let's define what a right fit client is, or a good client. In our experience, a good client is typically one that has revenues between $500,000 and $5 million annual revenue. And the reason why we say that is because if they have less than $500,000, they probably just need to focus on sales. And if they have more than $5 million, they typically have more experienced professionals on their team. But this is not a hard and fast rule. I've worked with clients less than $500,000, and I've had clients that are doing 30 million in revenue. The second qualification of a good client is somebody that has an expertise in the craft of their business. So, for example, if somebody that's a dentist I mentioned earlier, they're a good client because they're an expert at the craft of their business. A not so good client might be a seasoned investment banker or private equity firm that is just buying companies because they want to flip them. They're probably more knowledgeable of the financial side of things, but who knows? And plus, if you think about like Rick's roofing company, Rick, the owner, if they're running, let's say, a $2 million roofing company, Rick is probably the chief everything, the chief technician, the chief salesperson, the chief marketing person, everything. And he's probably very overwhelmed. At the same time, he's insecure in his knowledge of the financials. And so somebody like us comes along and helps lift this burden off their shoulders, they would welcome it, because what we also provide is a peace of mind to these people. You mean you're going to be my go-to financial person and I can bounce ideas off of you, and you could be my confidant and guide, and we can talk about things, and I don't have to carry this big, huge burden of this business only on my shoulders? Then yes, I want your service. This is what people are saying to themselves. And it's this huge lift. So that's why I say that try to find somebody that's an expert at running a business where they're an expert at their craft, that's running a $500,000 to $5 million business. Those two are the best types of businesses to go after.
So you want to be very strategic and realize that not everybody is going to be a best fit. And as we know, sometimes it's easy to work with your current clients and increase the value of those clients instead of getting new ones. So how would you actually start to introduce advisory services to your current tax and bookkeeping clients?
Yeah, I mean, the current existing clients are the best, lowest hanging fruit ways to get CFO advisory clients. Why? Because they already trust you. Hands down, they already found you. You already found them. They're paying you to do something, whether bookkeeping or tax. They already trust you. So if the financial person in the business owner's lives comes to them and offers to help them have a growing, successful business, why would they say no to that? Why would they ignore you? They wouldn't. For example, let's say that you just went through tax season and you call a client up and said, "Hey, Sally, I was looking over your taxes. I just completed them, and I spotted some red flags in your business and some opportunities I see for growth in your business. Can we hop on a call next week? Or can I come to your office next week? Or can you come to my office next week and let's talk about it?" Who would say no to that? What business owner would say no to that? Especially if you're presented in a way that you're spotting red flags in their business and opportunities for growth in their business. Notice I didn't say, I want to comb through line item by line item of your tax return, and I want to comb through your quarterly financials. No, we're giving them what they want, which is a growing and successful business. But if you position it that way, because they already trust you, they're gonna say absolutely.
Okay. So the two things you want to be able to mention to these clients is that maybe you've been looking at their financials, you spotted some red flags. People are actually motivated to avoid pain. So that is something to really understand. And then also you might see some opportunities for growth, which would be top of mind because they're always looking at how to grow. And if it could be easier and just hand it to them, that's so much better than them having to figure it out themselves.
Absolutely. And you've already figured it out for me? Yes, tell me. And most people are just curious. When you say, we have to remember also that business owners, their business, for the most part, their business is their livelihood. It's the thing that literally puts the food on their family's table. It's what they normally think about most of the day, and even on the weekends. It's their baby. And if somebody like us, somebody that they trust, comes along and says that I'm going to help you make sure that baby doesn't, that baby thrives and doesn't die, who would not pay attention to that? They want that help. They crave that help. That's why I keep saying that we in the accounting profession need to reposition how we approach business owners, whether they're clients or not, how we approach business owners, because they want this service. It's because their business is the thing that puts the food on their tables. It's got to work, because what their business dies, what are they going to do? They still got to make an income. So they would go back to get a job they didn't want in the first place, which is why they opened their business, go into more debt. I had a client one time who we first started working together and asked him, essentially got to the bottom of why he wanted to hire me. And this guy he was in his 60s. He said, he looked at me and started tearing up. He says, "I just took out a second mortgage on my home and my wife doesn't even know, just to keep my business afloat." These are real people that have real problems,
Mhm.
and they need help.
Yeah.
He needs help. People need help.
So now we're talking about the money part. And earlier you were mentioning that your clients, you're suggesting a minimum of $1,500 and maybe $2,000 for a client. But some of these firm owners have clients still at like $200 a month. They can't imagine charging $1,500 for the advisory services. So how would they figure out what to charge for some of these services?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the thing is, if you have a $200 client, are you performing $200 worth of work for them, or are you undercharging yourself? First of all, if you are really just performing $200 worth of work, then it's a fair trade. But I doubt most people who are charging $200 are performing. They're probably performing $1,000 worth of work. So really, is the concern that you're afraid to ask more? So is that the problem? So in other words, we just got to figure out what the problem is. If you really are just providing $200 worth of services a month and charging, then that's a square deal. So we got to break this down and figure out why you're charging what you're charging. But here's the thing. Advisory services should be priced based on value that you're providing. So if you go to a business that's doing $1 million in annual revenue, and you say for $1,500 a month, which is times 12, that's $18,000 a year, I'm going to not only cover my fee of $18,000 a year in additional cash flow, but I'm going to make sure you get a lot more than that, or I would fire myself. I've told almost every client that exact statement. Because otherwise, if I'm not earning my salary, what you're paying me, why am I even here? What's the point? And nobody's ever had to fire me, by the way. So $1 million business, you're charging $18,000 a year. That's $18,000 a year. That is a drop in the bucket. Most businesses are paying part-time and teenage employees more than that a year. So we have to put it in perspective that a legitimate business, and by the way, I do think that's why I say the range should be 500,000 to 5 million in annual revenue, because I think a lot of people, especially bookkeepers or accountants, are charging way little. They're working for clients who don't have businesses that are in that range. They're working for very small businesses. And if you want to do that, that's fine, but that's going to be very difficult for you to make money. We suggest that you just replace one by one those smaller clients with larger clients, and either replace them, meaning ask your existing client to pay more, or get a new client that will pay more, and then just tell your old client that I'd raise my prices. If you don't want to pay more, I've got to drop you. There's ways to do that that's tactfully.
Yes.
Or you could also outsource or white label bookkeeping or tax services to somebody else, or co-firm it with somebody else, and then you do the advisory, and that way you're increasing your take home while making passive income on the bookkeeping and tax side. But there's ways around it. So I guess the bottom line is, if you're only charging $200, $300, anything less than probably $750 a month, then we need to figure out why you're charging so little. Is it really you're providing a very small service and you're getting paid adequately? Then maybe we can scale that, or outsource it, or hire somebody to do that work, so you can spend your time doing more high valued work where you're earning more your effective hourly rate is much higher.
And part of what I'm really hearing is that they need to understand the value of what they're delivering as a accountant or bookkeeper before they can expect someone else to recognize their value as well.
Totally.
So what we're looking at is reframing the conversation from the task and the compliance part of what you're doing, and focusing on how you're going to help a business owner with strengthening their financials, business growth, being able to have expansion sooner than planned, something very, very specific that is important to them, as opposed to the tasks required in order to make that happen.
That's right. 100% agree. You've got to sell the the features, not the, excuse me, you got to sell the benefits, not the
Yes.
features.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, when you watch like a car commercial on TV, what they're not doing is they're not explaining the features of the material that the inside is made up of and the tires and
Right.
the engine and how all that works, which I'm sure is impressive. But they're not talking about that. They're the images, the visuals. What you're seeing is this like good looking couple with a dog in the back. They're going up this snowbank house to a $3 million, house, and it's snowing. I mean, it's they're making you feel a certain way.
They're selling a dream.
They're selling the dream, right? They're selling the benefit of owning that car. If you buy this car, you are going to feel like this. That's it. And that's what we need to do. We need to connect the dots to prospects, that if you get me as your CFO advisor, or get you as their CFO advisor, then you will feel a certain way. You will accomplish what they want to have accomplished in their business.
So part of what we've been talking about is breaking free of the time for money trap, which is something I am very, very passionate about, and showing the firm owners how to really stop trading time for money, truly own their business instead of owning a job. Anything else that you just wanted to add before we start to wrap up?
Yeah, I think the imposter syndrome, just to touch on that again, is something that is real. And if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, number one, that's a good thing, because the people that never experience imposter syndrome, they're either psychopaths or they're very, very new at something. That's why they, the Dunning-Kruger, have you heard of the two psychologists in the 80s, Dunning and Kruger? They coined this concept called the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, that the less somebody knows about a topic, the more they think they know. But the more they know about a topic, the less they know, which is why, it's been documented that first-year medical students think they know more and have more confidence than a doctor that's been practicing in a very specific field of medicine for years, because they know there's a lot they don't know. And so their confidence goes down. And so my point is, if you have imposter syndrome, that's a good sign that you have this, because otherwise true imposters never doubt themselves. Okay. So that's number one. The second thing with imposter syndrome is that most people think that in order to not be an imposter, to feel confident, that they need to start with competence in something or competence. Well, it's hard to develop competence or confidence in anything without taking action first. Think about it. When you learn to ride a bike, you could watch all the videos online. I mean, back then the internet didn't really exist. You could read a book about having to watch how to ride a bike. So you could be competent at it, and you could have all the confidence. Well, I could ride a bike, but until you actually get on the bike, it's not going to matter. You're not actually going to do it. Once you get on the bike and take action, then that will develop through practice will develop your confidence or competence, and more competence will develop your confidence. So the point is, you got to start by taking action and realize that imposter syndrome is never going away.
So action first, even though it feels overwhelming, scary, like you're taking that leap off the cliff.
That's right.
And the confidence comes later when you start to get some validation. Adam, we could go on and on. We're both very passionate about something similar. It's something that we share together. I always learn from you and your perspectives on how you're approaching this as far as the CFO services, and really raising the bar of how accounting professionals are showing up and serving their clients. Some of the things that we touched on is what clients really want from their accountant, which is beyond the basics, how to attract those new clients and maybe upsell existing ones into advisory services, and some proven strategies to stop trading time for money so that you can actually own your business instead of having your business own you. So if somebody wanted to connect with you, Adam, and find out more about what you do in the CFO project, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, just go to the website, thecfoproject.com, thecfoproject.com. And there's on that homepage, there's tons of trainings and free resources. So check it out.
Thank you so much. This is Lauren Fogelman showing accounting firm owners how to double their income working half the time.